Thank you for coming, for attending this Dharma talk. Thank you for all of your help in supporting this community, both by attending, by practicing, and by financially supporting us. We need your help. Please continue if you can. So, and this sadhana is something that we chant. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour. We chant every full moon and new moon. We have been chanting that today, and I think tomorrow is full moon, and we will be chanting it again. So we've done it several times already. So the idea in this sadhana, this is a sadhana I've been practicing, not always, but almost once or twice a month since for about 50 years. So I'm somewhat familiar with this sadhana. I don't have it memorized, but I've chanted it quite a bit. And so today, since we're in the middle of this retreat, surrounded with monks, I'm here and there's a dozen monks in the room with us, with me. And so I just want to read a line. The title of this talk is The Kingdom of No Dharma. And there's a line right in the middle of the Sadhana of Mahamudra. I highly recommend that you get a copy of this, read it. You can even join us on Zoom. There's not often more than 2 or 3 people join us on Zoom, but you're certainly welcome. Excuse me again. So the kingdom of no dharma. The kingdom of no dharma, free from concepts, found right here, is discovered within the heart. Here there is no hierarchy of different stages, and the mind returns to its naked state. Very simple instruction. And there's lots of instructions. If you looked at all into Tibetan Buddhism or into any of the Buddhist teaching down through the centuries, all the different teachers, all the different lineages, all have their own value, their own structure, their own platform, their own way of doing this. And every one of those is valuable to us. And everyone is going to find a different way. Some people need to study in the Theravadan tradition, the tradition of the elders. That's the only way it's going to work for them. They need to study that way. Some people need to study Soto Zen, Rinzai Zen, Tendai practices in Japanese tradition, and the various traditions that are coming out of ancient China, ancient Korea, Tibet, and so on. India. Find a path, find a teacher. Find a teaching, find a way that this is taught. This is very simple. The kingdom of no dharma. You have to start somewhere. So we start in our tradition, in our lineage, we start with the Buddha's dharma. Sometimes people say it's the Buddha's dharma. It may not be. But maybe that's what you need to do anyway. Just find something. Do it. Practice it. Find a teacher. Find a teaching. Find a community, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. This is the 3 jewels. This is a fundamental support for Buddhist monks and practitioners down through the centuries. A couple thousand years plus. Lots of ways to live your life. You can just go out and raise cattle, and you can become a carpenter, become an attorney. You can train yourself in so many different ways. It's just unending, the kinds of ways, professions and trades and so on that you can do these days. And all those are valuable. All those are needed. We need to do those. We need to have this. We need to have food. We need to have housing. We need to have medical care as consciousness that is showing up in the form of what? Living beings. But your fundamental nature is consciousness. The thing is when you're functioning as a living being and you can wave things around and you can make noises. Hi, Jim. I've been waiting for your call. You know what I'm talking about. You're doing this all day long. 20 years ago, you did not have one of these, and suddenly we have this technology, and it's going to get better and it's going to get worse. And I'm highly recommending that you take the technology you were born with, which is your consciousness. Sit down, find out who you are. Don't get your identity from this thing, from this bell, from that bell, or from this person. Kingdom of no dharma is free from concepts, and it's discovered right here, not out there, not over here, not over there, not in somebody else, not in me, not in her, not in him, not in them, not in your mom, not in your dad, not in your children, not in your dog, not in your cat, not in your political orientation or your sexual affiliation, orientation, or dynamic. You will not find identity there. And if you do find identity there, it's coming apart. And it is unreal. And it is vividly unreal in emptiness, which it also is a quote from this. Vividly. It's there, but it's vividly unreal in emptiness. You need to see that. And if you don't think otherwise, then please do something else. Be a carpenter. Do something else. Learn to sing. Sing a lot. Excuse me. But while you're at it, while you're feeding yourself, feeding your family, while you're dealing with your medical situations or your health or your diet or emotional dynamics that are coming and going, you may need therapy. May need a couple therapists. You may need to become a therapist. There's so many different variations on what? Being a living being. A lot more available these days than there were even 100 years ago. Very limited back then. But things are not getting better. Look around this world. There are absolutely, totally insane, crazy people that are completely identified with the body form and identified with what? Right and wrong. And there is no such thing. That's an invention created by a bunch of people trying to control other people because they think that their body-mind complex is real, and they're right, and those other people are wrong. This is called friends and enemies. War and peace. Don't go to war. Don't go to peace. Take no position. The kingdom of no dharma, free from concepts, is discovered within the heart. Not that heart, not that one. Yours. You find it. You find out who you are. Get your identity from anybody but yourself. This doesn't mean you might not need somebody to show you when you may be looking in the wrong direction just because he, she, or they have been working on this for most of their life or most of their lives. Some people have been back here over and over and over again. The karma paths, which are talked about here, Tusum Kempa, the first karma path. And down through the centuries, all 17 of them actually know they're going to be born somewhere and actually say where they're going to be born. And they show up as the particular kind of teacher, a way of talking about what the Buddha said. Everything is dependently arisen. Nothing comes from its own side as an individual self. And you can discover that. You don't need to believe what I'm saying. Don't believe it. Don't disrespect what I'm saying or me or yourself by believing any damn thing. Stop it. And one of the ways you do that is you realize how attached you are to your beliefs. Believe this, you believe that, you don't believe this, you watch the attachment. You can't shove away a belief. That's called disbelief or ignorance. Don't do anything with it but observe it. Right here, you find it right here. Sit down, hold still. Find a wall, find a tree stump, find a garage door. Hold still. Just look at it. If you just dented the front fender in your Porsche, you might want to sit in front of that and look at that dented fender until you can't see anything but just that. Just look at it. This is how it's done. It's not done by calculating, figuring. It's not even done by studying the 30 verses of Vasubandhu. You may need that in order to get yourself to turn around and look at the wall, or look at the floor, or look at the tree stump. The kingdom of no dharma. Dharma means law, rule, form. The kingdom of no form, no concept, free from concepts. That doesn't mean you won't think. It means you are no longer trapped by your stupid thinking process. You are actually free to think any direction, every direction. Language, you're completely liberated from your attachment to language. Therefore, you can speak any direction about anything from now forever. You'd never have to make sense. Liberate yourself. Look around you. Watch CNN for 15 minutes. Watch MSNBC. Watch Fox News for 3 hours. Might need to take some medication. Or you may need to meditate. Or you may not need to do anything. Maybe you'll be convinced and you can just go to the voting booth. Things are coming apart, not only politically, but the world is coming apart because there are people that don't want you to pay any attention to the fact we are destroying this huge ball of dirt we live on. We're destroying it by ignoring the way the situation functions, by being trapped by the thought process that is all about controlling, all about being in charge, and so on and so forth. Politics, the politics of experience. Don't ignore them, but don't believe them. Don't ignore them. Don't disbelieve them. Just observe, observe, observe. This is what is being taught from this direction here. Observe, 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 and receive, receive, receive without comment. You do not need to comment on anything. If you're fundamentally receiving what is in front of you, you will never make another decision about anything because everything is obvious what to do next. It's obvious what to do next. It's obvious. It's obvious what to do next. If you're making any kind of decisions, you have work to do. And then most of that work is going to be involved with sitting still and looking into this mirror that is called the mind. Kingdom of no dharma. Free from concepts, found within the heart. It's just talked about that way. It's not an emotional dynamic necessarily, although it may be so flooded with emotions you can't even think. It can show up in any form. Consciousness always finds the form that it needs. And it is astonishingly clear. And it's astonishingly vivid. And it is completely full of clouds. Not separate. It's not separate from anything you come up with. Free from concepts. Found within the heart. You can do that. You might need to have someone to point to it. But they can't do it for you. They won't do it for you. If they say they can do it, are going to do it for you, you might want to be a little cautious in that area if somebody starts telling you how this is done, other than you need to do it yourself. There's lots of ways of saying that. The kingdom of no dharma, free from concepts, is discovered within the heart. Here there is no hierarchy of different stages, getting better, getting worse. And the mind returns to its naked state, which is without the clothing of concepts or ideas or judgments or evaluations. Even the concept of life and death is gone because it is mind. It is mind only, it is consciousness only. Consciousness, whether the body shows up as being born, living for 50 years, 100 years, or goes away, the consciousness doesn't do anything. Don't believe. I'm not asking, this is not something you believe in. It's something that is being pointed at by this old man, and who has had the very good fortune to have met some true teachers. I'll take some questions if there are some. Yes.
How do we discover the kingdom within our heart without looking for something there? Or do we?
The teaching, to respond to that question, I've responded to that question many, many times. It's an excellent question. I say, you stop looking for and you look at. If you're looking for something, then something is missing. If you look at something, then it's absolutely in front of you. Exactly what you need to see is right in front of you, albeit a wall, albeit a pegboard you've just covered with a sheet because you don't like the little dots. Isn't that why you covered it? Or you didn't cover it? You did cover it.
We did.
We did. More? Good area.
If is what we're looking at the kingdom of no dharma?
Yes. But you put something on top of it to cover up what that is. And that cover up comes out of fear that which is looking at it is not going to see it correctly, or that which is looking at it might come to the wrong conclusion, or that which is looking at it may not be exact, or what if that which is looking at it, me, what if somebody comes along and corrects me and shows me that I'm wrong and that I didn't do this right, or if somebody comes pokes you in the ribs. When I'm saying poking you in the ribs, I'm not talking about physically, but comes at you and points at your self-centeredness, at your narcissism, at your vanity, at your pride, because that's what the teacher is here to do. They can't do it for you, but they can see where you're wrapped up in yourself and you're all told knot of ideas and beliefs and opinions, judgments that are fueled by hope and fear, hope for something better. There is no such thing. Fear of something worse, there is no such thing. Those are creations that create the chaos of the world. You need to do this with consciousness, not with anything else. And I'm very adamant about it. I've been looking at it all my life. Didn't know where to look until I met a teacher. Go ahead.
If we fully receive that prodding from you, that poking, is that the kingdom of no dharma?
Not yet. Just receiving is the path. The path is suffering. We're having difficulty. If you're not having difficulty, you're probably not going to be listening to me. You're going to be somewhere not having difficulty. But if you're having some kind of a challenge, probably something of what I'm saying, you might want to listen to me for 15 or 20 minutes. Some of you are here fully ordained as monks, so you have a sincere interest in what I have to say. Other people are just going to drop in and drop out, perhaps. More, you have it. More.
How do we go from that path of receiving to seeing?
That's how it's done. It's just like the image sometimes is you're just walking up a mountain. It's easy to get halfway up the mountain and think this is not working, and to start making a home halfway up the mountain, or finding a rest area and rotating around a particular teaching, trying to find in that situation some kind of result. What the teacher is saying, what the true teacher is saying, whether it's this teacher or any other teacher, is saying, you need to look here. And the only way you can look here is to sit down. Don't close your eyes, because that just increases the imaginary strength of ego. But open your eyes, live in this world, be embodied in the human form, so you can see that it's unreal. Because if you close your eyes, then we start believing our thoughts and our emotions and our feelings and our belief that we're starting to get better, we're improving, we're becoming more mindful. This is just bullshit. Stop it. This doesn't mean that you might not have to start that way. You may have to start by closing your eyes, by scanning your body, by chanting mantras or doing any number of things. I'm not against any of that. The thing that I'm talking about that I emphasize is to sit still, watch the movement of the mind without adding, subtracting, or dividing. Just receive it, no matter how much it smells, no matter how fragrant, no matter how irritating, no matter. Add nothing onto it. No comment, no elaboration, just that. More?
Is that something we can do willfully or something that occurs?
The word I use, you could use willful to some extent. Some people might use that. I certainly considered the aspects of the path that I began on where I was very stubborn about it. It just continued. I didn't get any results. I wasn't getting anywhere. So I just went on say so of my teacher. I was not seeing any results. It's like really bad medication doesn't work. So, but you just keep going anyway. So the word that I like to use is intention. You sit down, you have the intention to see what this is, and you return to the intention. Just like on the Bodhisattva path, the path of the Mahayana, the intention is to be with all things. Personalized, that's to put others before yourself, and that's very hard to do if you're all stuck on your protecting yourself and advancing yourself, and you're really sensitive to what everybody's thinking or doing, and you're getting your identity for how people are treating you. And of course, people are going to treat you any number of ways because they're getting their identity from treating you that way and watching your reaction and then reacting to your reaction. It's just the chemistry of samsara is called dependent origination, pratitya samutpada. It is an illusion, but it's paratantra. It's relatively real. It has a structure, but the kingdom free from dharma found here. More.
When you're bowing, when we stop looking for and look at, will there be results, bowing?
To some extent, but the results will not be particularly satisfying because the first thing you're going to probably see is the first noble truth that the Buddha taught. That sounds very simple. Well, everybody knows that, or nobody knows that, or that's not completely true. Life is suffering. But most of us, might as well say all, are avoiding suffering. That's what the three poisons are about: passion, aggression, and ignorance. Pushing away aggression, drawing towards us, or changing, or modifying, or blaming passion, or distracting yourselves, or going somewhere else, just ignoring how we're feeling or what is happening in our life. Ignorance, passion, aggression, and ignorance. Go back to your question and reframe it.
When you're bowing, will there ever be results on this path?
So this is the way I like to say it, and hopefully this will, insofar as I hope for anything, this will trigger something in your understanding that goes beyond the whole idea of right and wrong, results, no results mentality. You won't care because you realize that your understanding has gone beyond the result, gone beyond cause and effect. You're beginning to transcend relative truth of even life and death. You're beginning to live in consciousness only. Conventional will say you're just nothing but spirit. You're nothing but light. I don't mean light. I don't mean something romantic where, oh, we're all light beings or some kind of bullshit. It's not romantic. It's tough as nails. It's a hard truth. And it's also soft because those two are also a polarity that no longer work. Those polarities no longer work. And I say you won't care how you feel. I'm not saying you will be ignoring how you feel. You will be very aware that you do not feel good. But you will have something like the teaching of the Buddha to help you relate to that in a way that is sane, not insane, not crazy, covering it up, trying to pretend you're somebody you're not, or ending your life. That's the real fancy way of working with suffering. This is so terrible, I just can't live anymore. If you don't have a teacher or a teaching, then you start to listen to your imaginary nature, which is a pack of lies. and it's propelled by fear of the unknown and attachment or addiction to cover-ups, or the other word for it is entertainment, distracting yourself into anything. Is it wrong? No, you should do a lot of that. Do anything you can to help you get to the path. When I mean that, I mean it. So that's why I don't teach that. That's why every one of you monks know that you get treatment from me based on what you're working with. You don't get treatment from me based on obeying. Anybody in here feel like I have to obey me at all? If so, speak up, and I'll tell you to stop it. Stop obeying me. Do what you need to do. How many times do I say that to everyone here? Do what you need to do. But if I am your teacher, if you ask me to function as your teacher, you might want to talk to me a little bit about it before you run off to Honduras. Let's talk about it a little bit. Maybe I might have some understanding about that may help you. In other words, we do this together as a teacher and a student, not as a boss and a servant. Yes.
When you're bowing, so when we're on the path, like halfway up the mountain and need a distraction or entertainment, is that still being on the path?
Yes. The idea here, the key word, several key words, but the main one responding to what you're saying is be aware of it. The karma that brought you into this life, they gave you this hair color, they gave you this sexual orientation, they gave you all the other things that are involved with being a specific kind of personality. Every single one of you. That has to be respected. You have to respect the part of your consciousness that appears as confusion. Don't try to cover that up and live up to some kind of ideal. This is just nuts to do this. Go ahead.
When you're bowing, sometimes you quote your teacher, Chogyam Trungpa, with a 2-word teaching he gave called "Be genuine."
Yes.
Are outflows ever genuine?
They're always genuine. Anytime you feel something and you just spit it on something else or blame somebody or attack somebody, of course it's relatively genuine, but that has to be seen. You have to be aware of that. You can't just look at something you're doing and try to stop it. That's a misunderstanding of the word discipline. It has more to do with control, and it's based on a whole lot of people trying to control other people. Not a good idea. It may have been worked for centuries. For thousands of years, we may have had to have had that kind of functioning in ancient monasteries and so on, because the culture wouldn't support anything else. The understanding of individuals wouldn't support anything else. But culture and understanding, we understand what this is now, just because of our technology, of the amazing communication, not to mention something like artificial intelligence and all the other things that are showing up because of our science and so on. Yes.
When you're bowing, what would be an indication of an outflow that is not genuine if we have awareness with it?
When you think that your outflow is justified, when you think that you're right and someone else deserves the crap you're throwing at them. You know what I'm talking about, because you have outflows where you're right in the middle of it, and you know that this is inappropriate. Don't you? Yes, but have you also noticed that you can't really stop it? Why can't you stop it? I can tell you why, but I want to know if you know why. Something is missing in the outflow. What's missing? I can tell you it's an illusion. It's unreal. But the ego mind tends to validate it, and validates it with not only the subjectivity, but with the objective. We think this is real. And at the same time, you're being aware that that's an outflow. The way to work with that is to be aware of that, and then it will come apart of its own. You don't get to do anything. The intention is to see the truth, and the truth right here. Kingdom of no dharma. No structure. No right, no wrong, no up, no this, no that. Non-dual. No spirit world, no physical world. No life, no death. You've transcended everything. Just consciousness only. It does not manifest as a form. And yet it is everywhere you look, it is nothing but form. It's again, not two. So you would have to be aware of that. That's why Trungpa Rinpoche said, be genuine. He knows, or he knew at the time, or I feel that what he was pointing to, from my understanding of it, I didn't talk to him about it, was he could see that you can't just clean up your act. You're going to have to spend some time just being the crap you're trying to get rid of. So you get to make friends with yourself. You can see there's some aspects of your mind you're going to have the rest of this lifetime. You're going to have this kind of emotion or feeling come up. So that's why it's necessary to see that there is no identity there, that there's no solid personhood. Have to see beyond that. And there's no solid otherhood. If you see that, then you're fine. Then you can dance with anybody. Then you can even engage with situations that seem very aggressive and not really be threatened by them, or feel like you're doing something wrong. You need to clean up your act, or anyone needs to clean up their act. More.
When you're bowing, so in the process of an outflow, if the awareness is intense as well during the outflow,
Yes.
is there any way to interrupt that outflow with awareness?
You won't need to interrupt it. The whole idea that you interrupt the outflow, when we say without outflows, we know we can't really stop those. I mean, maybe sometimes we might have a little bit of success, then other times we're just overwhelmed by it. So the awareness, when the consciousness is that is showing up as a human form, is no longer a prisoner of beliefs, opinions, judgments, emotions, or anything. So when I say you don't care how you feel, it's not that you don't have it. You don't have the feeling. You may feel intense negativity or emotions. It's just that there's no personhood there anymore. So therefore, the emotion is called self-existing or self-liberated or rangdong. It just has its own dynamic. It doesn't have a person behind it. It doesn't even have an object it's about. That is all completely obliterated in terms of its actuality as a solid, ongoing, believable situation. It is an illusion. Needs to be seen. If it's seen, the work is done. You may still fight with people, you may not. But you won't be too concerned about interfering or changing anything. The same thing can be said with the Bodhisattva vow. Once you realize what this is, you realize there are no beings to save. But the intention still needs to be there. It's the intention, not the result. If it's a result, we're right back to relative truth. It comes and goes. Something shows up, and it goes away. It's relative, impermanent. But something which does not show up cannot vanish. And the intention does not show up. Welcome.
How's it going? I've heard you say everywhere you look, you see the Buddha.
Yes.
Is there a relationship between what's found, what you're encouraging us to find within, and otherness that might show up as Buddha? I'm not sure how to ask them.
As near as I can understand what you're asking about, I would say it this way, that the whole idea of relationship is gone. There is no relationship. There's only relationship when there's separation, when there's someone over there and someone over here. You may have to work on your relationships. You may not. It would be up to you to work with that wherever you're at. The important thing is get your butt to the wall. Get yourself to the wall where you're watching the movement of the mind in as clear a situation as you can. You don't have to be a Buddhist. Well, you may have to be. You're a monk, so you need more glue. I certainly did, although I avoided it for a long time. The whole idea of relationship starts to come apart. So because you don't see anything else. Everywhere you look, you see yourself. If I look at you and look at your issues or your problems, which I often do when we're talking or interacting in some ways, what you see over here is a projection. There's no one here. What you see is a projection. It's unreal. It's vividly unreal. You have to see it. You may see this over here as unreal, First, you may see your own self-centeredness as being unreal, your own egos being unreal. It's going to work differently. It's a relative illusion that we're in, where illusion is looking at illusion. Illusion is looking at illusion. I know it's an illusion. You don't, because you believe your thoughts and emotions and feelings and think some things are right and some things are wrong and some things need to be fixed. Is that not the case?
Frequently.
Frequently? Oh, you mean there's times when you have complete liberation and you're just a wild and crazy liberated woman.
Didn't mean it.
Huh? Well, that's how I took it. Don't look at me like that. You're not minding very well today. Everybody's grinning but you. And Sokuzan, he's not grinning. No, he's grinning too now. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, a little bit. If there's no attachment to this or that or right or wrong, you can go any direction. I can be anyone. You can't. You're stuck with who you think you are. I'm not stuck with who I think you are, who you think you are, who I think I am, or who you think I am, or who Winston Churchill thinks either one of us is. You get the point I'm endeavoring to make? You're welcome.
Bowing. In the sadhana, it says, Om, he is the wrathful action which cleanses all impurities. In the wrathful action of our life, how does that cleanse us? Wow.
How does that what?
Cleanse us. Or
So
does it?
who is being referred to there? He is a wrathful action which cleanses all impurities. Whose wrathful action is that?
I'm not sure, but it comes from Guru Rinpoche or Padmasambhava.
Where are you going? Have a nice time.
Mikyo Dorje.
Okay. What's the question?
If we look at our life and see our own wrathful actions that have seemed like impurities, how does that, looking at that, cleanse
Can everyone hear his question? No. A little bit? He's going to come up here and tell you. And then I'll find someone else to answer it.
Milka bowing? In the sadhana, there's a line that says, Om, he is the wrathful action which cleanses all impurities. And I'm asking, what if we see some wrathful action or deep misunderstanding in the ways we've lived our life, how does looking at that cleanse us?
Answer his question.
It feels like it points out the areas of which we're fixated on, because the wrath is only empowered through our resistance, it seems.
That help? So we're the ones that decide, that look at wrath, or look at peacefulness, or look at anger, or look at happiness, and we're the ones that set up the polarities, and think that some things are okay and some things are not okay. But the wrathful action that cleanses all impurities is coming from a teaching, which will use any means to bring your attention to consciousness only, and it may need to be wrathful, and it may need to be, especially if you or anyone is stuck on trying to fix things and trying to make things better and trying to be peaceful. Spend your whole life trying to be peaceful, and you're actually ignoring what happened in consciousness in the 13th century, which you are not separate from.
Milka bowing, if it feels like things are being torn apart, do we need to put anything back together?
Of course, it's very situational. There may be times when, relatively speaking, you need to put something back together, like your car is wrecked. It's damaged, so you're taking that and getting some insurance, and you're having it repaired. It just works to do that. We wreck a car, we get it fixed. Well, it's a very relative situation, but the understanding that is being talked about here is much deeper than just relative truth.
Milka bowing, what is the deeper area that it's covering, bowing?
The area where you think some things are right and some things are wrong. Some things should be and some things shouldn't be. Do you think that accident shouldn't have happened?
Milka bowing,
Oh, really, say it. Do you think it shouldn't have happened?
I can't.
Well, go ahead,
I
say
can't
it.
go to
It
the
shouldn't have
beginning of
happened,
it.
should it? Shouldn't have happened. I'm helping you here. Go ahead, because then I have another response after you
Okay.
agree with me.
Milka bowing, it shouldn't have happened
Well, then why
whatsoever.
fix your car? Yeah, it was a trap. It's what is being pointed out there is the polarity that we get completely swamped by. Yeah, anyone here, you just look at the last day or two or 3 days or something where you got totally swamped by some kind of a position on something about you're right, somebody else is wrong, or possibly you're wrong, and now you see someone else is right. The whole polarity situation. The teaching of this kingdom, no dharma, free from concept, is discovered in the heart. That's an encouragement for you to see it yourself. You probably are going to need somebody to even say such a sentence as that. And then you may need a living teacher so that they can actually encourage you to do that over and over and over again. And if it's a true teacher, it will be someone who has seen that and speaks out of what they see, not out of what they know. Because if they're talking about out of what they know, then it's just more propaganda and judgment, evaluation, conclusions, analysis, logic, etc. It works relatively, but it cannot address a spiritual path other than leading up to it. Chisho, you have a question?
Vishwaving. Yeah, in the line that Miyoka just read, what does cleansing all impurities mean? That feels like messing with dependent origination. Bhavin.
And from the relative point of view, it is. But what that is, it's just a relative way of addressing that there was never anything to clean up. Cleansing all impurities. There was never anything, nothing ever had to happen. Even the 16th Karmapa, when he was passing away in 1981 in Chicago, said nothing happens. It's just an ultimate pointing that everything that is happening is an illusion, but you may have to participate in the negative end of it, which is the most powerful at negative end. You may have to look closely at the negativity that is happening in the mind stream. You may need the teacher to point that out to you. Nothing needs to be cleaned up. Nothing needs to be fixed or repaired. More? You have more about it? Chisho. We can go any direction you want to go. How does Vasubandhu, someone you're very familiar with, how does Vasubandhu address that? Give me one line.
Vishwaving. I'm just trying to think of the very last verse where he talks about the fruitional state. But I don't think he talks about any cleaning up. He says, Dvida Daustulya Hanita. Yeah, he does say a little bit of destruction of all afflictions. Wow.
Bingo. He does. Amazing. Amazing. Astonishing. Further questions?
Ondo bowing. Is there something we can do to question the identity when we are grasping at a self or grasping at other?
Perhaps a little bit. I think it would be situational. But it's just about observing something and not adding, making no particular comment on it. No addition, no, if you're looking at something like you seem to be doing, just have a willingness to just have it like receive it like it is. Because if you do anything with it, then you've modified the receiving part, because consciousness is so slippery. Consciousness will do whatever needs to happen, because the consciousness is so powerful that it can actually imagine that it has an other. And so but if you just receive, then eventually consciousness realizes kingdom no dharma free concepts is discovered within the heart. And you just by observing what is showing up, whoever it is, in a tree, in the eyes of your child, just receive it, fix nothing, correct nothing. And that way you return to a naked state of the mind, completely without concepts, completely in love.
Ono bowing, that identity that grasps or pushes away happens so quick. It's so habitual. How do we break into that, bowing?
You don't have to break. You just have to watch it. Watch the identity. It's embarrassing, because when you get close to realization, you start to get more and more embarrassed with what a fool you have been and you are. It's very difficult. And the tendency to want to cover that up and come back to some kind of contained person who's in control and who knows right from wrong and is no longer creating any conflict, some kind of identity that is somehow clarified itself or perfected itself based on a relative understanding, rather than no more war with anything.
Ondo bowing, what is happening when we are in the presence of a teacher who has seen the false identity, who's no longer hooked by right and wrong?
What do you mean, what's happening?
Is there something by being in the presence of that teacher, or the example, watching the example?
Only if you're open to that. Only if you've been working with your mind. You can sit. There are people. We've got what, a dozen people in here, and a couple dozen on Zoom, and a few people are listening to this. Maybe many people are listening to it. But there's a lot of people that might hear this, might read a book or something, or listen to something that I've been saying over and over and over again, thousands of times, and still not think that that's important, or think that there's something else they need to do with their life. And relatively speaking, they're probably doing that. There's no way that, if I'm getting close to what you're asking about, so you can be in the presence of a true teacher and just have a lot of opinions and beliefs and opinions that'll stop you from seeing who that is. And you might actually decide to do something else. Recently, I had a student even say, I see things differently, and they left. And are they wrong? No, they're not. They're doing what they need to do. It's completely correct. It's just that they never would tell me how they saw things differently. I might have been able to get some help from them. Further questions? Yes, sir.
Views on buying. What is discovery if nothing happens?
It's the discovery that there wasn't anything. Very good question. What is discovered if nothing happens? Isn't that what you ask? So it's the discovery that there never was any. It's not something I invented. It's something that we all ran into when we started studying the Buddha's Dharma, shunyata, empty. Everything is empty of self, empty of other. When other is the something. Empty of self is the one who's witnessing or seeing or smelling, tasting, touching, feeling, hearing, the so-called other, the feeling. And so it is seeing that is unreal. There never was such a thing. Nothing happens. There's this illusion. Illusion. It's there, it's solid, you can hear it, but this is an illusion. Illusion is vividly unreal and emptiness. Yet there's still things, there's still objects, there's still thoughts, there's still emotions. When consciousness is liberated, like it says here, kingdom of no dharma, free from concepts, is discovered within the heart. You can do this. What you're actually doing is you're backing off slightly, socially distancing yourself from your thought process. And some people are not. Some people might be sitting there and encouraging the thought process and thinking and thinking and thinking. This is one of the reasons that we have things like mantra practice to help you disconnect from the constant chatter of the mind. It replaces it with another kind of chatter. Om mani padme hum, mani padme hum, mani padme hum, hum 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 hum. The thinking process has to stand aside while that production is happening. It's just a way of working with it. Some people may need to do that. Some people may need to just look at the wall. Others may do something else altogether that I don't even know about. But nothing happens. I know that. And why? I don't see anything. And do I see you? Yes, I see you. I see Mozuku. I see Unyo. I see you Dao. But I know that this is an illusion. It's very simple. But you can't just go, no, it just, why didn't you say so? Everything's an illusion. I've been taking myself too seriously. No, you can't. Because it has to include the negativity. You can't just, oh, it's an illusion. So therefore, if I saw it was an illusion, then I would be carefree and I wouldn't, no, you have more suffering. The Buddha said life is suffering. He didn't say, life is suffering until you see this illusion, then it's not suffering anymore. He didn't say that. And this person's not saying it either. More? Thank you, sir.
Sokurin bowing.
Louder, please.
Sokurin bowing.
Come over here, would you please? Unless you can talk as loud as Sokuzan can. Sit right there. See that black thing? That's not a mouse.
Sokurin bowing.
Yes.
At the end, before we chant whom, we're asked to supplicate to the mandala with the negativity, such as the hope of attaining Buddhahood, the doubt that wisdom exists, wantingness, desire, passion. How do we offer these gifts to the mandala?
You're just producing that and that. You're just offering it. You take all those things, wantingness, desire, hatred, offering all that into them. You're just giving all that up.
So
just like you give it, just like when you fall to the feet of the teacher, if in fact you do, you're actually giving everything up.
So bowing, when I'm chanting whom, it just returns, the negativity just returns over and over again. All of these.
Yeah, that's the idea. Just observe it. Just observe whatever's happening, all the negativity, just watch it come and go. It will come, it might hang around for a week, 2 weeks. Nothing lasts. But in order to see what it is, you may have to actually look at it a lot, and that will help you look at it. Someone else may chant a triple hum and not much is happening at all. Someone else is chanting, there's all kinds of mantras, chanting White Tara or Vajra Yogini or Chenrezig or Guru Yoga. More?
I just don't understand how I give you anger. How do I give the mandala anger?
First, you have to feel the anger. Are you doing that?
Yes.
That's a start. Just keep going. Feel the anger. Don't pretend it's not there. No cover up.
If the negativity is stronger than the awareness, how do I work with that?
Just that is awareness. To see that the negativity is that powerful. It's like looking in a sky that is filled with black clouds. That's awareness. That's not a problem. It's you're actually aware of, you finally, after all these years of trying to put white clouds on top of everything, paper cutouts, trying to make things better. Finally, because you've stumbled into this path, you are going to receive the negativity you've been able to block out. And now you have to do what? See that you can't block it out. This is a true offering.
Bowing. I did have a question, but I'm wondering if somebody unmuted because they had a question, or the Zendo might.
Well, we'll find
Yeah,
out
the
who's
Zendo.
there. Well, we have a Zendo full of people. Mitch, go ahead.
Mitch Bowing. As I'm working on my awareness practice and kind of being mindful of the things I'm saying and doing and being aware of the three poisons. Earlier you spoke about not interrupting your mind stream or your thought process. And I guess as I've been mid-sentence or mid, thought, I become aware that like this is not showing up the way that I had intended to be showing up. And I'm just wondering, do I continue through that thought? Is that the intended thing so I can see the thought and be with that result? Or should I be perhaps interrupting because that would be a practice towards less of those poisonous mind processes, I guess?
Those are awareness about the dependent origination, awareness about the situation you're in. Sometimes you'll find yourself going this way or going that way. There's no standard. And if someone tells you there's a standard, then it's not me. I'm not telling you that. I'm saying it's more difficult than that. We have a little bit of a standard, and the standard I promote constantly is observe, be aware, receive, and sit a lot. Get to the cushion and hold still and watch the movement of the mind so you eventually become your own expert in that. You actually are so clear on the way thoughts arise and the way we grasp at some things and reject others, passion and aggression, and then shut down and distract. We become so aware on the way in which we're doing that, while there's still the belief that there's a self who's doing that. That self that's doing that is very, very dense and very convincing. And only by watching things without adding, watching things without subtracting, there's passion and aggression, and watching things without distracting yourself will eventually lead you to see this, the kingdom of no dharma within the heart. It's right here. You'll see there isn't anyone here. There's just consciousness, and that consciousness belongs to no one. Even though you're temporary, you could say, custodian of it for 50 or 100 years or whatever length of time you're in a physical form. But you realize you're not a person. You're just consciousness. And even that is kind of a guesswork, because, and why is it guesswork? We don't know what consciousness is. And why can't you know what consciousness is, or why don't you know what it is? Because it has no status as a thing. The technical word and the scholars would use, and has no ontological status. Ontos meaning thing in what, Latin, Greek, or something. It has no status as a thing. So therefore, if it has no status as a thing, it can't decay or go away because it has never appeared. It is that amazing. And yet we function with it all the time, and we fill it full of thoughts and ideas and beliefs and opinions and judgments and evaluations. And then we buy into some, we try to stop others. So you're in the process of being aware of how this works. So you can't just sprout wings and fly to the top of the mountain. You have to stand in the tracks where you're at. Be right where you're at, as it is, right here, right in the dirt. And the path is has a kind of procedure to it where you go up the mountain. But that's just an image. Nothing actually happens. More?
Mitch Bowing. No, I think you answered it earlier. Thank you.
Okay. While I'm on have the screen up for the Zendo, is there anyone else there? Kelsey, Seth, or anyone else in there have a question? Bayun,
玉红报应.
go ahead. Yuhong.
So my question is, I think the difficult part is for me to remember to return. But
Yes.
the more I return, I feel like the more I'm willing to at least think of the returning. I'm wondering, maybe for some people, their inspiration could be innate for most part of their maybe advantages, so-called advantages. So I'm wondering, for the inspiration, how can I maybe expand that
Okay,
inspiration?
so that's one of the reasons we chant the sadhana, full moon and new moon. If you've done this a lot, if you do it a lot, if you chant that all of these practices, especially out of the Tibetan tradition, the Shambhala tradition, and also Zen, Chan and Zen traditions, and so on, have different ways to work on that inspiration part. This is very inspiring, especially if you begin to read this and you never really get used to it. It just starts to show up in different ways. It can become very emotional. Can't get through this without choking up. Can't. And I've chanted it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Can't do it. So should you chant the Sadhana of Mahamudra? I don't know. You're asking me something about that, and I would say that would be a way. There are other practices. There's a White Tara practice. There's and also just sitting practice of meditation, or just finding a text that you like Trust in the Heart, or Sandokai, or the Song of the Jewel Mirror Samadhi, finding some kind of a text. Possibly it's 30 verses of Vasubandhu or something is inspiring to you. You can read those conceptual pointers or that story or those images and help encourage you to get yourself to the cushion and train your mind and just continue to look at that empty, unsuccessful area of the mind called consciousness only. So I'll maybe take one more question and then we can close since it's getting pretty late. Is there someone that hasn't asked a question? Go ahead.
Sokubowing, with the Sadhana of Mahamudra, I don't really feel emotional about it in the sense of like wanting to cry. But
It's because you're a dullard. You're not emotional like I am. Can you continue your question, or have I stopped you? Just by what I'm saying, just a bunch of words. It has nothing to do with anything. What's your question?
There's an intensity that builds where it feels like it's a pressure cooker, but I don't know what the intensity is or what the pressure.
What's your
is.
question?
What is that?
There's no what is it. It's just that whatever it is, that's what's happening. Your particular style, Senshu style, Chiazans, Sokuran's, or anyone's is going to be completely different. There's no, that's why it's so difficult to get some kind of a foothold, some kind of a reference point on the spiritual path that actually provides some kind of feeling of getting somewhere, because there's nowhere to go. And how that shows up for you or for me or for Juzan, for Mozuko, it's going to be very much different. So what you're experiencing? You spent a month in retreat with the sadhana, didn't you? So you're very, very familiar with the sadhana. You chanted it every day, several times a day, or 30 days? Was it 30? Yeah. So you and 4 other monks have done that over the last several years. That's deliberate to get you used to the sadhana on your own, with your own experience of it, not just me telling you, oh, do this, now stop, do this. No, I said, here's the bell and dorje, here, go sit for 30 days, study the sadhana, chant the sadhana. And every one of all 5 of you, all of you came up with a different way of working with this. Quite a bit different. Your way was completely different. Just continue. Just continue. There's no real answer other than whatever shows up. That's it.
Shokubowing, what is the temptation to want to leave that quality of experience and go towards understanding it.
Just ego. You want to go towards relative understanding of it. Ego wants to know. Like it said in the National Enquirer, inquiring minds want to know. Isn't that the National Enquirer? Well, this is a different kind of knowledge. This is a kind of knowledge that is already your birthright. It's right here. Find it. Don't ignore this. Don't spend the rest of your life going in circles. Very good. So I think we should close. I've been jabbering away here long enough. So thank you for coming, for attending this Dharma talk. Thank you for all of your help in supporting this community, both by attending, by practicing, and by financially supporting us. We need your help. Please continue if you can.